This dashboard won me 300 US dollars. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can build this simple dashboard using Power BI. I'm not only going to be showing you how to build this dashboard from the scratch, I am also going to be making some adjustments to some of the visuals because when I created this dashboard, there were some key design principles that I did not consider. And in this video, in this tutorial, I'm going to be correcting all of that. And no, there are no prerequisites. If you've never built a Power BI dashboard before, you can start here. So if you're ready, let's dive right into the tutorial. Okay, so I have gone ahead to open this dashboard in Microsoft Power BI. I'm just going to walk you through the visuals here and highlight things that I would be changing. Okay, I have also noted down the colors that I used and also the canvas size. So let's begin. So if this is your first time opening Power BI, don't worry, this tutorial is going to be beginner friendly and everything that is in this dashboard was done here in Power BI. So you don't need any other tool to get started. On this dashboard, I have 4 cards and these cards represent my main metrics. So my main metrics tells me how many employees are still active in the company, how many employees has been terminated from the company, how many are males, how many are females, okay? And then I have this chart here that tells me or that shows me the employee by state. Now, one mistake that I made here was that I did not add a color saturation. So what do I mean by color saturation? A color saturation basically shows you the points that are higher or lower in your visual. So if I had applied color saturation here, states with the most employees would have a darker shade and states with fewer employees will have a lighter shade. Okay, so this makes it easier for people to read the visual. This makes it easier for people to understand the visual at a glance. Because right now, nobody can understand this because all the states have, the same colors. It doesn't show which state has more employees than the other. I also have the employee by department visual here. So this shows us the total employees by the different departments. Okay, and then I have the employee by recruitment source. So this shows us how the employees were recruited. Okay, from Indeed, LinkedIn, Google search, employee referral. If you notice, my employee referral value here is not visible, or the full text isn't shown. So that is because of something, right? I've seen so many people or so many beginners, their dashboards, right? They do have these issues. So if you've ever encountered these issues and you still don't know how to go about it, don't worry, I'm going to show you how to fix it so that your text can be visible. I also have the stats by managers. So now this is a table and basically it's just showing us or giving us the information by managers because each employee has his or her manager, line manager. Okay, so we have the manager name in this column, the number of active employees under this manager, the number of terminated employees under this manager, the average employee satisfaction. So this could really give HR a deeper insight into some underlying issues because if a particular manager or if some managers consistently have more terminated employees, that could signify a problem because why are employees leaving under this manager? Then also I have the employee information right here. So this employee information, basically whenever I select an employee here, it gives me the information about a particular employee. So the name, the status, that is their employment status, if they've left the company or if they're still active, their gender, marital status, and other informations. Okay, at the top here I have the employment status filter. Now when I click on it, you can see that we have three different categories. We have the active, so these are for employees that are still active in their job roles. We have terminated for a cause, voluntarily terminated. So both of these, terminated for a cause and voluntarily terminated, means that the employee is no longer active. And then we have this bookmark here. Now, bookmark can be new to a lot of you, but bookmark helps you add more visuals or items to your dashboard or to a page in your report without having to create multiple pages. So it helps you manage the page in your reports or your dashboard. Now, there is a visual that I created here that shows us the employees, that shows us the total number of employees by their termination reason. So when I click on this, because I'm in Microsoft Power BI desktop, I have to hold down my control key to click it or to make it functional. But if this dashboard is being viewed in the service or online, I don't need to hold down my control key. So I'm going to hold down my control key to click on this button. And then when I click on it, you can see the employee by termination reason. Now, these are all the termination reasons, and these are the total number of employees by the different termination reasons. I also have here the filter by employment status. Because this is termination reason, that means these employees are no more active. So when I select this slicer, you can see that even though we had active, terminated for a cause, voluntarily terminated, when I turn this on, it only shows me the status of those that are no more active in the company. So terminated for a cause, voluntarily terminated, these are for inactive employees. And then the last thing here is, because I have this view in this current page, if I want to go back to the default page or the default view before this particular view that shows us this employee by termination reason, I can click, or I can close this view by clicking on this button. Okay, so this is all part of bookmarks. So bookmarks can help you add views and hide views in your dashboard. So if I click on this X button, it removes this view, and then we are back to the default view. Now let us begin. Let's see how we can create this. To start, I'm going to open a new report, and to do that, you can do that in two ways. I can press Ctrl N to create new, just like the usual Ctrl N in your Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, or I can come to File and then select Blank Report. So I'm going to select this blank report, or you can press Ctrl N on your keyboard to create a new blank report. All right, so now that we have this new blank report, the first thing that I want to do is to set the canvas size. Okay, so by default we have this, but if you want to expand the size or increase the width, increase the height of your canvas, you can do that by going to your visualizations pane, and then you select the second button here, format your report page. So I'll select that, and then I'll go to canvas settings. When I go to canvas settings, by default it is type 16:9, but if you want to give it your own width and height, you are going to select that drop down and then select custom. So let's come here. So my width here is 2200. I'm just going to copy that and also copy the height. So my width, I'm going to paste the width that I copied, 22, and then the height. You can see how wide my canvas is now, and then for the height, I'm going to paste the height that I copied. Now another thing that I want to do is to get rid of these grid lines. I really don't like these grid lines. Okay, it just makes my work look unfinished. So I'm going to come back here to format your report, pane and then come here to canvas background, color white, that's fine. And then I'm going to set transparency to 0. So that is it. That the grid lines are out. Another thing that I want to do before I even set the color is that I need to build my visuals, right? Presently or currently, I do not have any data. So the first thing is to get our data. Now, my data is an Excel file. All right, so I'm going to go to my get data. Okay, so maybe your own view is different, and that's because I collapsed my ribbons. So let me expand my ribbons. This is how it should look like, right? So I can either click on Excel workbook or come here to get data and select Excel workbook. And then I'm going to click on browse to browse it from my computer. So I'll select HR data set. So you need to be sure of your data set. So don't worry, I've left a link to get the data and build with me because I would really love to see you build with me. And then I'm going to click on open. And also I'm going to click on next. So because it's an Excel workbook, I have to select the exact sheet that I'm working with. So I have this data set. I'll select the data set, and then this view has currently changed because previously it wasn't like this. Okay, the view to get the data, and then it wasn't like this, but it's pretty similar to what Microsoft Power BI had before. All right, so I am going to come down here so we can see load, but I can see that there are some things that I need to do. Right before loading this data, I have to go to my Power Query to check if the data is up to standard, if it meets the requirements to create the dashboard, and if it has all the informations that I'll be needing to create the dashboard. In the DOB column, which is the date of birth column, I can already see some errors that needs to be fixed. So we can fix these errors and structure our data the right way in the Power Query editor. So because we'll be going to the Power Query editor, we will not be loading it now. So instead, I'm going to come down here and select transform data. Opening it up in Power Query editor, I'm just going to check if all the data types are correct for each field. So the employee name is a text. Okay, to know what data type it is, why the reason I know it's a text is because I can see ABC. Okay, so I can click on this ABC and then I can see all the data types. Okay, so you can see that ABC represents text. Whenever you see 1 2 3, it means it's the values in that column are whole numbers. Whenever you see 1.2, it means the values in the columns are decimals. Okay, and so on and so forth. For position, that is the position of the employee in the company. ABC, that means text, the state, ABC. Now, I needed to know that these states are all in the US, okay? They're all in the United States. And that is why in the map visual, or that is why the map visual has the shape of United States. I can see that Power Query, I didn't even need to do anything. So Power Query has already gone ahead to auto detect the data types. Initially in the preview stage, we could see some errors, but it has gone ahead to fix those errors. So let's say you bump into such error. So let's assume this data type has not been fixed or applied. In the applied steps, I'm just going to go back one step before the data type was applied to the fields or to the columns. So I'm going to select promoted headers, and then I'm going to select date of birth. I'll select the data type icon there and select date. So let's click on insert. Okay, so let's assume this was how the data came. This was how the column and everything came. You can see that when I selected date, it brought out errors for some. And the reason why it is bringing out errors for some is because it is not able to, now it is not able to like correctly pass the date. For some dates, it is saying them as day, month, year. For some others, it is saying them as month, day, year. So that has caused like a conflict. and it has confused the system. Now, to correct this, the first thing I'm going to do is to cancel the step that I just did. Now, in Power Query, there is no Control Z, there is no Control Y. So Control Z to undo, Control Y to redo, you don't have that. But what we have in Power Query is applied steps. Now, in the applied steps, it gives you control over the steps that you've applied, over the things that you've done, the transformations that you've applied in your data. So you can delete the transformation, delete a step. Okay, you cannot reapply the step, but then you can delete that step. So now this is the step that I just took, which is changed type. So I'm just going to come to the left hand side and click on this red X and then delete. So let me go back to the promoted headers. Okay, so now before I change this to a date, okay, I'm going to select the data type icon. I'll click on using locale. I'll click on insert, and then it's going to pop up this change type with locale. That is, change the data type and select the locale of origin. So I'm going to change the data type to date, and then I'm going to select English United States, and then click on OK. And voila, we fix the errors. But we don't need to do this, right? Because Power Query has already gone ahead to do all that for us. I'm just going to cancel this step. But just in case you ever find yourself in that situation, just follow the same step that I just took and you'll be fine. Your date will be fine. So I'm going to cancel this step, or delete this step rather, because Power Query has already, I think, it's quite intelligent now. Yeah, so kudos to the developers. Here I can see date of termination, right? So date of termination simply means the date that employee was terminated, was removed from the company, or left the company. Okay, so there are some cells that we can see nulls, right? When you check the column quality, we have 33% valid, 0% error, and 67% empty. So 67% of this column, of the values in this column, have nulls. That means they are empty, and that means they are still active in the company. So you can see that even the term reason for the nulls, NA, is still employed. So wherever there is null, it means that person, that employee, is active. So this is going to be very, very useful. I mean, when we want to create the measure for, or the calculation for, the total number of active employees and also the total number of inactive employees. So this column will be very, very instrumental. So let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. So I think everything is okay. Okay, so we have one blank column, one empty column here. So I think it came together with the data from Excel. So I'm just going to delete this column. I'll right click on it and click on remove. Another thing that I want to do is to be really, really sure that there is no duplicate, or there are no duplicates. Okay, although I can see that the employee name here, when I check the column distribution, so these bars represent column distribution. Now, if you do not have this, if you open up your Power Query editor and you can't find this, it's very easy to locate. All you need to do is go to your view tab. Okay, go to your view tab and then turn on your column distribution and also your column quality. So now the column quality controls the valid, error, and empty cells, while the column distribution controls the columns that you see here. So these columns help you to see how the data is distributed in that particular column. So here we have 311 distinct and also 311 unique. That means there are 311 distinct different names, and these distinct different names all appeared once. So that means Alagbe, Trina appeared once. So uniqueness means once. But wherever you see that, for example, 32 distinct, 14 unique. That means there are 32 distinct different positions, but only 14 of them appeared once. So maybe there is only one data analyst. So basically that is just it. But there could be a lot of production technicians. So we're not done. So I think I have just one more thing to do, is to remove duplicates from the entire data. So let's just say there are duplicates. There could be duplicates, you know. So how do you remove duplicates from the entire data? Don't remove duplicates column by column. That's wrong. You can remove duplicates from the entire data row by row. So it checks the data row by row to see the rows that repeated themselves more than once. Okay, so I'm going to come here to this small table icon at the top here, and then I am going to go down to remove duplicate and click on that. So now that we're done, I am going to go back to my home. Now we need to load this data into Power BI so that we can start building our dashboard. All right, so I'm going to click on close and apply, and then just wait for Power BI to apply the changes, the transformations, the cleaning, and everything.
Working on it.
Okay, so now that we're done with that, let's go back to our reference dashboard, or the dashboard that we're referencing. All right, so again, we have 4 cards here. So these 4 cards represents the main metrics. Okay, I mean, it could be more, right? But for this dashboard, obviously. So we have active, terminated, male, and female. Now, whatever calculation that I'm going to be using in my dashboard, there is something that I like to do. I like to create a table for them. So a table that houses all my calculations. I like to separate my calculations from the main data set. So I'm going to come back here, and then to create a table, so I'm going to create an empty table. In my home tab, I have this enter data button. I'm going to select it, and I'll just come down here, and I'll call this table measures. So your calculations are called measures. And then I'm going to click on next. So I'm going to click on create, and I'm just going to close and apply. Power BI made some changes. Usually when you click on create, it just appears here. You don't need to go to Power Query, but let's have the update, or let the updates keep coming. All right, so now the first measure, the first calculation I want to create is the total number of active employees. Now let's go back to the table, to the data set. So how do we know the employees that are active? Now you can know you using 2 different columns. Okay, so we have here date of termination. Remember, wherever the cell is blank or null, it means that that employee is still active. Or we can use the employment status column, right? Because in the employment status, if the cell says active, it means that the employee is active. If it says otherwise, it means that the employee is inactive or not active. So I'm going to go back to my report view. So for this, I'm going to be using the date of termination. It's more simpler that way. All right, so I'm going to right click on the measures table. Now, when you want to create a measure in your measures table or any table, you right click on that table so that when you create that measure, it saves in that table. So I'm going to right click on it and then click on new measure. And then let's call this active. So active is equal to the total number of employees that are still active. All right, so before we create the active measure, first of all, I need to know the total number of employees. So I'm going to create a measure. So let's call this employees. So we're going to count the employee names. All right, so I'm going to say distinct counts. I mean, I could have used counts. We're still going to have the same thing because all the names in that column are distinct. Okay, so distinct count, I'm going to select that function, and then I'll be counting the employee name. So I'll close this and press enter. Okay, so now that is done. So because I've created this new measure, I'm going to come here to this column. This column is empty, by the way. I'll click on the ellipsis, the more options icon here, and then delete from model because it is no longer needed. All right, so now the next measure I'm going to create is the total number of active employees. So I'm going to right click on this, select new measure, and then active is equal to, now I'm going to calculate. So I'll be using the calculate. The calculate is also a filter function. Calculate the total number of employees when the date of termination is blank. So now for terminating employees, I'm going to right click on the measures table again and select new measure. So let's call this measure terminated. Again, using my employees measure. So you see, creating measures just makes your visualization process easy. In fact, it makes your DAX easier. All right, so calculate the number of employees when the date of termination is not blank. Okay, when the date of termination is not blank. Remember, we used is blank for active. So I will say Not is blank. Date of termination. Okay, so I'm going to close all my brackets. So calculate the number of employees when the date of termination is not blank. So not is blank for not blank. Then I'll just close this. We also have the males, the total number of males and also total number of females. So let's see, how do we know? So we have this column, sex. So whenever it is, the sex is F, that means the employee is a female. And if it is M, it means the employee is a male. So that's pretty easy. I'm going to right click on the measures table again and select new measure. So let's start with male is equal to calculate the total number of employees. So now the filter is for when the sex is equal to M for male. So when the sex equals to M. So in quotes, I'll put in the letter M, uppercase, because that is how it is in the data. Then I'll close my quotes and also close my brackets, and then I'll press enter. So for female, I'm just going to copy this formula, okay, because it's pretty much going to be the same thing, but I'm just going to replace M with F. Again, I'll right click on measures, click on new measure. So this will be for female, equal to, I'll paste in what I just copied, and instead of M, this will be F. Okay, so calculate the number of employees when the sex is equal to F. Now, initially, or when I first built the dashboard, what I did was that, because at the time Microsoft Power BI had not, created this new card visual, that is the card visual with the Thunderbolt. We used to have another card visual, so that card visual only took in one value, okay, or one calculation at a time. But with this new card visual, you can add as many calculations as you want to display, or as many information as you want to display. You can just keep adding and set the structure if you want it to be horizontal or vertical. So I'm going to select this card visual because we need to test and see if our DAX calculations are working. So I'm going to select this card visual. Let me just close this filters pane and expand it a little bit. Okay, so the first DAX I'm going to select is active. I'll select that, and then I'll select terminated, select male, and select female. Okay, so I can keep adding. All right, so now the structure or the alignment, this is horizontal. So now let's assume I want to change this to vertical. I know I am going off, but I just want to show you how you can do that. I'll select the card visual and then go to my visualization pane and click on the format your visual icon, and then I'll go to the multi-card layout. In the multi-card layout, you can see that we have arrangement. Currently it's on horizontal, and then I can select this and change it to vertical. Now if it is vertical, you will see that you have it like this. Okay, so right now it is vertical. Okay, and you can see that it is not showing like all the visual, like all the cards, except you scroll down, and that is because the rows here by default is 3, so you can increase the rows to, let's say, 10, and when I do that, it will show me all of my DAX measures. So I'll change this back to horizontal. Okay, and then just reduce the height a little bit. So we're going to come back to format this very soon. Now the next thing that I want to bring in, so let me just reduce this a little bit. Yep. So now the next thing is going to be employees by state. Okay, before the employees by state, I think I need to change the canvas background color. Okay, so I'm going to come here to my notes and then just copy the background color or the background X code. So these are X codes. Okay, so I'll copy this. So whenever you want to do any format on your canvas, you need to select outside your visual. So if you're selecting your visual, select outside your visual, select a blank space in your page, in this page. And then I'm going to go to format your report page, go to the canvas background, and then come to color, go to more colors, and then just paste in the X code I just copied. I need more space to see this. So I'm going to come here to my ribbons, to the, I don't know if you can see my cursor. If you can see my cursor by the right here, by the top right. So I'm just going to collapse this. Now the next visual I want to create is the employee by state visual. So I'm going to be using a shape map. Okay, I'll select that shape map. So my location is going to be the state. All right, so I have the state here. I'll drag and drop the state on the location, and then I'll drag and drop the employees measure I created on the color saturation. So now if I do this, it is going to give like a color hue. Wherever the volume is high, the color is going to be darker, and wherever the volume is low, the color is going to be lighter. So I'm going to drop the employees measure in the color saturation. So we're going to come back to do the edit later. All right, the first thing is to get your visuals ready, and then you can edit, you can format later. Now the next thing that I want to do is employee by, let me just go back to my reference, employee by department. Okay, and then we have employee by recruitment source. So let's go back. All right, so I'm going to be using the stacked column chart. Columns, so if you don't know, columns are usually vertical. Now there's a difference between bar chart and column chart. While they are similar, right, the bar charts are horizontal. Your columns appear horizontally, while for column charts your columns appear vertically. So I'm going to be using the stacked column chart for the column, but for the employee by department. So I'll make sure that I select outside my visual. That is, I'll make sure that no visual is selected. Okay, because if I select a visual and then I now select another visual from my visualization pane, it's going to cause trouble. So it's going to cause chaos. All right, so I'm just going to undo this. Okay, so make sure you select out, and then I'm going to select this stacked column chart. So here we want to have employee by department. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag and drop the employee measure on, because I'm using a column chart. Okay, the categories, right, which in this case is the department. What you are comparing is the department. Because it is a column chart, that category is going to be on the x-axis, and then the calculation, the value, is going to be on the y-axis. But if we were using a stacked bar chart, the category is going to be on the y-axis, and then the value, the calculation, is going to be on the x-axis. All right, so now let's come back to this. I'm going to drag and drop the employees on the y-axis, and then on the x-axis I'm going to drop the department. So I'm going to drag and drop the department on x-axis. I really don't do select. I like to drag and drop it on the field I want it to be on. It just gives me more control. So now that we've done this, so let me just reduce this a little, because we still have other visuals that we want to have here. Now the next visual I want to create is the employee by recruitment source. So I'm going to be selecting the stacked bar chart this time around, and then just increase the height a little. Okay, all right. So because I'm using the stacked bar chart, the y-axis, that is where the recruitment source is going to be, on the y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to go to my data set and then locate recruitment source. I'll drag and drop this on the y-axis, and then I'll drag and drop the employees measure on the x-axis. And now the next thing is to get the stats by managers table, just like what we have here. So we have the manager name, the number of active employees, the number of terminated employees, and also the average satisfaction, or the average employee satisfaction, which is like the average satisfaction of employees under these managers. So let's get that done. So this is a table visual. So I'm going to come here and on my visualization pane, I'm going to select the table visual. All right, I'm just going to bring that here and reduce it a little. So very soon, when all of this, when all the visuals have been created and placed in their respective positions, then we're going to format them so that they look more appealing. Okay, so we need to add the manager name first of all. So when using tables, I like to select the fields I want in the columns field here or in the data fields here. So instead of dragging and dropping, because we only have just one field, so it is safe to select rather than drag and drop. Okay, so I'm going to select the manager name first, and then I'm going to select the active measure, the terminated measure, and also the average employee satisfaction rate. So we have the employee satisfaction column here. I'm also going to select that. So by default, whenever the values in your columns or in your column are numerical values, by default, when you add that field into your data fields here, it is summed up or the values are summed up by default. So to change this, we can either create an average employee satisfaction column, which is like creating a DAX measure, creating a calculation. So that is called explicit measure. Or we can do it the implicit way, where you drag or where you drop your field in your data field, and then you can just come here. So here we have sum of employee satisfaction, and then I can just select this downward arrow kind of icon. So we want the average, so I'm going to select average. So it changes to average of employee satisfaction. So don't worry, the name can be better. Now the next thing that I want to have here is the employee information. So let's go back to the reference dashboard. Now when I created this dashboard, like I said, Power BI didn't have this new card visual with the thunderbolt. Okay, this didn't exist as at then, but now it does. So when I created this, I used cards, like individual cards. That was what was existing then. So imagine using like over 10 cards. Okay, so now let's create this employee information card visual and add all the necessary information like the employee name, their employment status, gender, marital status. So let's do it step by step. Okay, so I'm going to select the card visual, and then let me just drag it a little bit away from the visuals on the left. Okay, and then bring it down a little. All right, so the first thing is the employee name, their employment status. So as I begin to select this, okay, I think I made a mistake here. You see why dragging and dropping sometimes or most times is the best. As I was selecting, it was just the fields were going into the categories, which was not what I wanted. It's supposed to go into the values. Okay, so I'm going to drag and drop. I'll drag and drop the employee name on the values. Okay, so by default, it's going to pick the first employee name, so which is fine. Then the next thing is the employment status. So I'll drag and drop the employment status, then followed by the gender or sex. I'll drag and drop that, followed by what's the next thing? Marital status, state, manager name, marital status, which is marital DESC, state. So if you notice, the fields are still horizontal. In our reference dashboard, we have two columns. okay, and then multiple rows. So I told you that in this new card visual, you can structure it the way you want, how you want people to see that card visual. So we're going to make our card visual to be vertical, 2 columns, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. So let's do that. So while still selected, I'm going to go to the format your visual, go to multi-card layout, and then I'll change the arrangement from horizontal to grid. Because when you do that, you can now set your column size and your row size. So for column size or column numbers, I'll put in 2, and then the rows I'll put in 7. So let's move on. Now, after the state, the next thing is manager name, followed by recruitment source and termination reason. So manager name, I'll drag and drop. Recruitment source, termination reason. So this is term reason. Okay. Now the next is position, department, performance score, satisfaction rating. So position, department, performance score, satisfaction rating. So employee satisfaction. So we have 2 left, and these are the hire date and last performance review date. So hire date is date of hire, so I'll just drag and drop that. And the last performance review date, so I'll drag and drop that also. Good. Now we need to change the view of the date. Okay, so instead of the date in full, I want it to have the short date, just like what is in our reference dashboard. So I'm going to go to the date of hire. I'll just select that column. Okay, select the column, and then I'll come to my ribbons here. Here I have the date format. Okay, so I'm just going to select this and then change it to short date.
Working on it.
And you can see the effect here. I'll also do the same thing for the last performance review date. Okay, so I'm going to go to the last performance review date column. So here in the data field, I'll just select it or click on it, and then come to the date format and change it to short date. Okay, so another thing that I want to do is to name the fields or name. So for each card, I want the information to have proper names. Okay, so instead of first employee name, it should have proper names. So I'm going to come here to where the values are and correct that. So to rename, you can rename your labels in 2 ways. You can right click on it and then you click on rename, or you can double click on the value in your data field, which is what I'm going to do. And then I'm just going to remove the first. So let's have employee name. So I'll do the same thing for the other values or the other labels. So employment status, this should be, this can be sex or gender. So this should be marital status. Then we have state, manager name. When you name your labels appropriately, it makes it easier for the end user to understand what that visual is about or what information you are trying to pass on. Okay, so we have recruitment source. This is term reason or termination reason. Position, department. This is performance score. So whenever I'm done, I just press the enter key on my keyboard to save that name. So this is employee satisfaction. So by default, it summed up the values, but don't worry, when I apply the slicer by selecting the employee I want to see their information, it just displays this satisfaction of that particular employee, that selected employee. So we're going to keep this as sum of employee, although we'll change the name, but we're going to leave the calculation the way it is. Okay, so employee satisfaction, then this is going to be hire dates. Okay, this should be uppercase D. All right, and then we have the last one here is last performance review dates. Last performance review dates. Okay, so this is cool. Now the next thing that I want us to do is to now format our visuals. You can see how this the visuals, the labels, and everything, the text, they are visible, well enough for people to see without straining their eyes, unlike what we have in our new report or our new dashboard. So we're going to be implementing this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come back here and let's work on this card visual first. So I'm going to select this. I want the values on each card to be aligned to the middle. Okay. Because right now the alignment is on the left. So I'm going to select this card visual, and then on my visualization pane, I'm going to go to format your visual and then go to call out, because these are call outs. Expand the value. All right, so expand the value, and then you can see that the alignment here is to the left, but I'm going to select the center. And then I'm also going to be increasing the size. So let's say to 25. And then for the labels, for each card, they are not really visible. So I'm going to also increase the label size. I'm going to expand the label section now and increase the size from 12 to 15. And then I'm also going to wrap the text, that is for labels that have longer text. So for example, let's take this font size from 15 to 18. You can see that last performance review date has wrapped, so the texts are now wrapped. Okay, so let's take it back to 15. All right, so that's what the text wrapping does basically. Now that we're done with this, I'm just going to reduce this the height of this a little. Okay, to create space for the employee name slicer, right? So whenever we select an employee, it shows us the information here in this card. So right now, the information on this card are just random. They're not tied to a particular employee. All right. Now, the next thing is this card. So basically, I want whatever format that I've applied on this card, on this employee information card, to be applied to the main card here. So there's a way you can copy and paste formats from one visual to another visual. Now, what you need to know is that both visuals must be the same. So you cannot copy the format from a card visual and paste it on a map visual. It doesn't work that way. So both visuals must be the same for the copy and paste to work. So now the format I want to copy is on this card visual. Okay, so I'm going to select that card visual, and then on my home tab there is this paint or brush icon, like paintbrush icon. So this is for formatting. Okay, so I'm going to select it. When I select it, it means that it has copied the format on this card visual, and then I'm just going to come to this other card visual and click on it. It didn't work, so let me do it again. All right, so I'll select this visual, go to my home tab and click on the paintbrush. Okay, all right, so you have to make sure that you are selecting the visual. So right now I'm on this card visual, and how I know that I'm selecting it is that right now it is not selected, or right now it is not the main focus. So now here is how you know. So you have to like go into the visual, and then you would see these two icons at the top right. So that will tell you that that is where your focus is right now. So I'm going to click or select it again, and voila, you can see what's going on here. Okay, now something is going on because this visual here has two columns. That format has also applied here, which is not what we want, so we're going to correct that. So I'm going to come here to this card and go to format your visual multi-card layout, and then I'll change it to from grid to horizontal. Okay, and then I'll set the number of columns to 5. Okay, perfect. This is okay, this is better.